All right, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Winter Davis and I am the College Planning Specialist at Education Quest Foundation, Omaha, Nebraska. In honor of Financial Aid Awareness Month, Bellevue University and Education Quest teamed up to create Financial Fridays, a series of 5 20-minute webinar sessions designed to provide you the information you need on financial aid. Today's session is Federal Aid Friday. I will be providing information and answering some of the most common questions as it relates to federal aid. Throughout today's session, I encourage you to type your questions and comments into the Q&A box. The moderators will track your questions and I will address them live at the end. If you have questions related to your specific situation, we ask that you include your name, email, and phone number so that we can follow up with you directly to ensure your questions are fully answered. Before I start, I want you to know you can hear me, but I cannot hear you. This is because we are recording the session, so those who were not able to attend today can view it later. If you would like a copy of today's presentation and recording, a link will be emailed to you following the webinar. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so 4 ways to pay for college. You have your scholarships, grants, work study, and loans. And yes, loans is a part of the financial aid process. It may not be the preferred choice, but it is an option for students to use so that they're able to, cover their bills. And as you can see, grants, work study, and loans, they're highlighted because in order for you to receive any of those type of federal aid, you have to complete the FAFSA application. And so, of course, being that it is federal, any other grants, work study, or I would say like additional loans, all derive from the FAFSA application. There is no other application you have to fill out. So up first is grants. And I always tell my students grants are great because it's money you do not have to pay back to the government, but it is based on financial need. And so the most popular grant, I'm pretty sure a lot of you may have heard of, is the Pell Grant. And the Pell Grant is basically a grant directly from the government. And one thing that I do like about the FAFSA process is once you complete your application, then you know directly if you are Pell Grant eligible or not. And for my seniors this year, the most that you can receive in a Pell Grant is $6,495. And one thing about being Pell Grant eligible is that it opens up other opportunities for you. And so there are other sorts of grants that can come directly from the government, like SCOG, or from the state. And we all know that Nebraska loves their Nebraska students, so there are grant opportunities. And then there are college-based grants. And for you to really know exactly if you're eligible for those other grants, you basically have to wait until you receive your financial aid package from your college. And of course, with being Pell Grant eligible, it is always contingent upon filling out the FAFSA application. And again, it is considered needs-based. So after grants, we have work study. There we go. So with work study, it is another needs-based aid. And one thing that I love about work study is it is an opportunity for students to work on campus. And it's pretty much like a part-time job, minimum hours. And with the employer, they work with your student's schedule. So unlike I would say real part-time job, if your student is sick, if they have to study, for exams, or if they're actually taking an exam, their employer will be, they're very lenient. So they're able to call in and get that time off. And there are all sorts of, I would say, like campus positions, whether it's working in the library, the cafeteria, fitness center, departments on campus. There are all sorts of jobs that your students could be eligible for. And for myself, I actually participated in work study, and it was probably the easiest job that I've ever had. I worked in the fitness center, and I basically Oh, what did I do? I signed people in, I cleaned off the equipment most of the time, hung out with my teammates, hung out with friends, and did my homework. And it was a cushion job. I probably worked maybe 2 or 3 hours during the weekend. And as some of you know, weekends on campus, it's deserted. There's no room really on campus. And so again, half the time I was just doing my homework. And the great thing about work study is every 2 weeks, you receive a personal paycheck. And that helped me tremendously because I am first generation single parent household. So it was a struggle on campus. So those dollars helped me a lot for gas, food, whatever I needed for college. And so one tip that I will share with you is that when you are filling out the FAFSA application, definitely when they ask, do you want to participate in work study? Answer yes, because it leaves the opportunity open. It's okay if you don't know for sure if you want to do work study at that moment, but at a later time, you can then decline it. Because if you answer don't know or no, then you're not going to be looked at for that opportunity. And another thing to keep in mind is that with your work study earnings, you could be awarded anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 per year. I would not add that toward the cost of attendance or trying to pay a bill because it's not upfront. It's money that your student will receive every time they work their hours. And another great thing with work study is that if your employer, if they like you, then you could possibly secure a job for 2 to 4 years while you're on campus. So again, always answer yes to work study because at a later time you can decline if that's something that you don't really want to participate in. And then after that, we have direct loans for students or student loans. And with student loans, pretty much by your student filling out the FAFSA application, they are almost guaranteed a loan. And they do not need a cosigner. Parents, it's not going to be in your name whatsoever. It is your student's loan. But with that being said, they are limited to what they can borrow. So for freshmen, they can borrow up to $5,500, and then each year it increases by $1,000, and it will cap at $7,500. This year, the interest rate was probably at its lowest I've seen since working for Education Quest, being at 2.75%. So that's a very good interest rate, and it is fixed. It's not going to fluctuate while your student is in college. And there are two different types. You have your subsidized loan, and it's a subsidy. So parents, you know that the government is then paying on the interest while your student is in school. And then you have your unsubsidized loan. And that means once the loan is dispersed, it's going to start accruing interest. And of course, with the subsidized loan, it is a needs-based loan. So your student may or may not qualify for that. But for all students, they will always have $2,000 worth of unsub money in their account. On their award package. And so again, student loans, it's something that at this point, you don't have to really think about it as much. I like to tell students that your loan, you can think about it being in your back pocket. It's there if you need it. We want you to first exhaust all possibilities when it comes to scholarships, work study, and grants, of course. And then at a later time, after you receive your financial aid package and you decide, okay, this is the school that I want to go to, now do we need a loan? And if so, then you fill out the paperwork, of course, and then that's something that your student will have for that school year. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking $5,500 isn't a whole lot of money. And so they do offer a Parent Plus loan. Now, this loan will be in a parent's name. It is something that you cannot transfer to a student once they graduate. You may have some form of an agreement between you and the student, but you cannot transfer this to them once they graduate. And parents, if you decide that you need a Parent Plus loan, there is a application process. And so you will apply, and after roughly like 5 seconds, if approved, you can borrow up to the cost of attendance. Meaning, after financial aid has, I would say, once you figure out your student's financial aid, and if there is a remaining balance with a Parent Plus loan, that is what you can borrow. But again, that is in your name, not the student's name. And the interest rate for parents right now is 5.3%. And in July, for my seniors, we will know the new interest rates, which I'm fingers crossed, hoping that they stay kind of low point. And so with that being said, again, for federal aid, it is money coming directly from the government. And again, you have your grants, your work study, and then your loans. And so these three things, if you are continuing in college, then you have to, again, fill out the FAFSA every year in order to receive those types of federal aid. And so one thing I will note too with the loan process, we do offer loan counseling. And so if that's something that you want to, for your student, I highly recommend it. We take loan counseling appointments usually in the spring or early summer, and we sit down with you and we work one-on-one with educating you about the loan process and helping you fill out the loan paperwork as well. And so with that, let's see, have any questions? So we will now open up the session for any questions that may have come in. As a reminder, if you have a question or a comment regarding what was presented, please type them into the Q&A box and one of the moderators will read them out loud. Jonna, do you have any questions for me?
I haven't had any come in just yet, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just want to make sure. But I did have two come up. So if you can clarify, on the Parent Plus loan, is it the parent's credit that is checked or the student's credit that is checked in order to take out that loan?
Well, that's a great question. It is the parent that they're going to check their credit. So that is something to keep in mind too, is that for some families, they may need a Parent Plus loan each year. So just noting that that will appear on your credit report.
Great. And then one other question. For the loan counseling that Education Quest offers as a service, do students or parents that need that assistance or want that information or education, do they have to be Nebraska residents to get that help? Because as we know, in the Nebraska area, that we have a lot of institutions for higher education and students come from all over, not just Nebraska.
Yes, so you're able to utilize our services wherever you are. We help all sorts of families across, I would say, the US, as far as California, all the way to Texas. So yes, you are more than welcome to use our services. As we are a nonprofit, we do not charge anything for our services, and you can utilize us as many times as you need to.
Great, thank you.
I guess another thing that I'll note as well is when you're filling out any application through the Department of Education, all of those forms are free. So if you're seeing anything that's like, we need your credit card number or anything of that nature, it's probably a scam. So definitely reach out to us with any questions because we help with the entire process with college planning, all the way to the financial aid process as well.
Perfect, thank you. At this time, I do not see any more questions. We can give it another minute to see if anyone thinks of something to add. So Winter, I think we're good. There are no more questions that have come in.
All right, well, thank you all for attending the Federal Aid Friday webinar. We hope you find it helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. The next Financial Friday session is FAFSA Friday and will take place today at 4 p.m. Thank you and have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.